your host, Alex Garrett.
Hey everyone, I'm Alex Garrett, and yes, this is the Alex Garrett Podcast Network, but I'm proud to welcome our newest podcast in the network, Mr. Mario Gallucci and Mario Gallucci's Mr. Acquittal, defending the rights of the people. See, this podcast is on the Garrett Network, and we have been privileged to have tens of thousands of people listening to podcasts on our platform, but now I'm very happy to introduce one of the top criminal attorneys in the country, Mario Gallucci. Mario, our first episode was such a success, we said, let's do it again.
Absolutely, Alex. Absolutely. Good seeing you again.
So since we last talked, a lot has happened. What's firing you up today, though, here on the Mr. Acquittal podcast?
Well, I think I would be remiss, but, I am Mr. Acquittal, and today we just learned that Sandra Day O'Connor passed. As you know, she was an associate on the Supreme Court of the United States. I believe she was one of the first females on the Supreme Court. She was an associate justice. I think she retired in 2006, if memory serves me right. And she was a fine jurist, brilliant person, and certainly a great loss to all of us and her family. While that's going on, though, it seems like the world is falling apart around us. I mean, we have two active wars going on. We have mass bedlam going on in New York. I mean, the thing that's really firing me up is, one of the greatest Christmas traditions is always the lighting of the Christmas tree in Rockefeller Center. So, some people say the day after Thanksgiving, Black Friday is the beginning of the Christmas season. For me, it's always been the lighting of that Christmas tree. And as you know, Alex, I had my own TV show. It was produced by NBC over at Peacock, and I used to get invited every year to the Christmas tree lighting. It was actually one of the highlights for me in the year. It brought, that tree lighting was truly for me and my family the beginning of the Christmas season. And being able to go into New York and watch the lighting and then walking around and seeing all the shops, Macy's and Saks and Neiman Marcus and everything that's going on was always a great pleasure. And, NBC did their best this year. And I got to thank the New York City Police Department for the outrageously great job that they did in making sure that those protesters did not interrupt what I find to be probably the greatest family event of the year here in the United States, and especially in New York.
Let's say someone's arrested at this protest, but they did nothing wrong. Would you defend someone that literally says really hateful stuff toward Israel, or would you back away? Like, let's say someone comes to you to defend them. What would you say?
So I'll defend anybody, because I'm not defending the person, Alex. I'm actually defending the Constitution. So we all have we have the Constitution. We all have rights under the Constitution, and I'm defending your rights under the Constitution. So if I was to pick and choose whose rights I believe in and whose rights I don't believe in, I think that I would be a fraud. So yes, if you were arrested for protesting at the Christmas tree lighting, as abhorrent as I thought your conduct was, I'm going to defend your right to protest. You have the right to protest. You have the right to protest in a peaceful manner. It's guaranteed under the First Amendment of the Constitution. I may not agree with what you're protesting about, but as far as I'm concerned, your right to protest is what I would defend. I'm upset with the fact that these people decided that they wanted to protest what I believe to be one of the, most sacred times of the year, a time of the year where we're supposed to be enjoying our families, where we're supposed to be enjoying mankind and doing what's right in the world. And they decided to interfere in that. But their right to protest is something that's guaranteed and something I would defend.
As a criminal defense attorney, I feel like you have to separate the emotions from the law. How do you do that? And is that why people turn to you at the Gallucci law firm?
So, I've been asked that question many times. As a matter of fact, I was asked that question this morning. I hang out with a group of people over in Starbucks in the morning. We all start our morning grabbing a cup of coffee and a quick conversation. And I'm surrounded by an insurance adjuster. I'm surrounded by police officers, somebody who works for Wakefern Foods, and a lawyer, a bunch of us. Somebody works for United Healthcare. And we all sit down and we talk. And one of the questions they actually asked me this morning is there anything that upsets you? So I'm about to start a very acrimonious case here in Ocean County, New Jersey, a murder case. I was asked this morning, does it bother me? And you know what? It's clinical to me. I feel like sometimes people think it's sad, but I'm totally immune to. I can look at crime scene photos and eat dinner. They don't bother me because I look at it as like a surgeon. I have a job to do, and I do that job. So I'm able to discern my profession from my personal life and able to move forward. I'm going to give you an example, Alex. I did the Pedro Abad case. I don't know if people remember that case. That was a Linden police officer who drove the wrong way on a highway in Staten Island. He had 3 passengers in the car, and he drove the wrong way on the highway. He collided with a tractor trailer, hit it head on. 2 people died. He was injured, and the 4th person was maimed and is disabled for the rest of his life. And the crime scene photos were gruesome. They were utterly gruesome. So all my children were still at home at the time I tried that case. So that night I was working on the trial, and I took all the crime scene photos and I laid them out on the island we have in our kitchen. And I went to bed. And the next morning I heard all the kids as they were getting ready and going to school, screaming, oh my God, Daddy, what are you doing? Why did you leave this out? Oh, what is this? Oh, it's disgusting. And I said to them, you know what that is? That is what happens when you drink and drive. And it was a lesson that the children still talk about all the time. I've actually heard them tell their friends about it. And they've actually asked me to get crime scene photos to them so they could show their friends what it looks like. So, yeah, I'm like a clinician, like a surgeon.
Do you find that you do that a lot with a lot of your cases? Hey, you guys can learn a lesson from from my profession, it sounds like.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, there's times where I'll give you another example. I've had pictures of people who overdosed on drugs, and they're like, what is that? And I'm like, that is exactly what it portends to be. That is what it is. This is what happens when you take drugs. You can overdose, and this is what somebody looks like when they overdose. So, yeah, I've done many things like that, usually DWI when it comes to drugs, just different things like that I would do.
All right, we're getting to some of the great charitable work and the giving that you're doing on the second part of the show today. But to go and defend these different cases, do you go to extremes? What's your courtroom manner like? When we go to see you defend, what's your manner like that maybe those that can see it on public viewing will be looking forward to? Do you get animated or what?
I'm very animated. I am actually very animated in a courtroom. I've been known to walk out of a courtroom, like say during an opening statement. In an opening statement, the people lay out their case to the jury, and a defendant doesn't necessarily want to show their hand. So an opening statement by a defense attorney doesn't normally equal what the opening statement of a prosecutor is. The thing that I like the best is that the jury is told right before the prosecutor's doing their opening statement that nothing that the prosecutor says in their opening statement is evidence. The only evidence that's going to come out is from the chair right there. And I like to start my opening statement because without a doubt, the prosecutor is going to get up there and they're going to jump up and down and they're going to say, little Johnny did this and little Johnny did this. And as a result of this, this person is dead and it's gruesome and they did ba, 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 ba. And I get up there and I tell the jury, well, then I guess I'm not necessary. And I pick up my bag and I've walked out the door. And I watch the jury just turn around and watch me walk out the door. And then I'll open the door and come back and I go, but you know what? I know that I don't have to worry about that because the judge just told you, and I'm telling you right now, that nothing the prosecutor said is evidence. The only evidence you're going to hear is going to come right from that chair. And I've even sometimes, Alex, gone and sat in that chair and delivered my opening statement from the chair. So, yes, I'm quite animated, quite animated. I've done cross-examinations of cops where I've walked through the courtroom and had them, was it this far away? Was it this far away? Was it this far away? Your Honor, could you turn off the lights in the courtroom? Can you see me, officer? I've done things like that many times. I think that part of being a trial attorney, now there are many criminal attorneys. There are not as many as I that try cases on a regular basis. I encountered a criminal defense attorney in upstate New York about a year ago who said to me that he had the same career I did. I'm doing this next year. It'll be 34 years. 34 years that said he's doing about 34 years. He said that he also had tried maybe 20 cases in his career. I tried probably 30 cases just as a prosecutor back in the 90s. So, the experience is there. And it's fun. I enjoy trying cases.
Speaking of experience, by the way, I got to throw this out there. You have 33 years of experience. So why should people turn to the Gallucci law firm, Mr. Mario Gallucci, and what's the best ways to reach you?
Well, the best way to reach me is usually just give me a phone call. I mean, I have an 888 number that follows me. So if I'm in the office and you call the 888 number, it'll ring in the office. If I'm out of the office like I am now, doing this podcast, as a matter of fact, I just received the call as we're sitting here from somebody on the 888 number to follow me. That's the easiest way, 888-369-0674. And why should you hire me? Because I've had more experience than most people out there. I grew up here in New York. In New York, you see many more cases than you're going to see like in Topeka, Kansas. You see in New York more cases than you're going to see in Saratoga, New York. So just by pure numbers, I have more experience. I probably try at this point in my career 5 to 6 cases a year. They're generally murder cases. I tried 3 murder cases this year to verdict. It's experience. Experience speaks for itself. The results are there, and I'm fun. When you hire Gallucci, you get a lawyer that has a lot of fun doing his job.
And for a free consultation, please call 888-369-0674. No obligation. And again, a free consultation at 888-369-0674. And you can also email Mario at mario@thegalluccilawfirm.com. All right, let's continue the conversation here because there's nothing better, I would think, for a criminal defense attorney than to get someone a case won right around the holidays so they can spend it with their family. Tell us a little bit about that. Have you had any memorable Christmas season cases that you can think of?
Well, I've had many. It's funny you say that, Alex, but I get so busy in December, and I never really understood why. I could see DWIs upticking, a lot of people going out for their office parties or their general Christmas parties. But for some reason, this time of year gets very busy. I picked up 4 cases this week, and all of them were, kind of crazy cases. I have, a person that's accused of robbing somebody, and I got alibi evidence that the person was not within 10 miles of the person. And I was able to just get him out of jail, and the family is very excited about that fact. There's a lot of people that are, and being in jail at Christmas time is horrible for my clients. I find an uptick in phone calls from my clients during this time. I know the families contact me more often during this time because it's time to be with your family, not time to, be in jail with your cellmate, enjoying a prison meal, fake chicken on a hard roll.
Well, and have you ever visited your clients in prison during the Christmas time, even just to keep them company for a little while?
I have. As a matter of fact, I plan on visiting two of them next week, right before Christmas. One of them with a very nice update from an expert that I just spoke with, and another one to give him some good news on a plea that more than likely will get him out of jail in the spring of next year.
Is there a stat line for Mario Gallucci that you have the best incarceration period? I mean, they don't stay in jail for long under Mario Gallucci?
It's very difficult. Being a defense attorney, you have to learn that the cards are always stacked against you. And the prosecution success rate is over 90%. I have a very good percentage rate compared to everybody. I have a very good rate of resolving cases with very good pleas. And the reason why I have a very good rate is because prosecutors know that I will try a case, and I'm not afraid to go to trial and try a case. And if I go to trial and try a case, there's a possibility I could win that case. So as a result of that, and with my years of experience, I find that I get very good resolutions to my matter. So it's not always important to try cases, but it's also equally important to be able to resolve cases in a way that's beneficial to everybody. And I'm very, very good at resolving cases.
That's why we turn to the Gallucci Law Firm, and many do. Now, Mario, you also do a lot of giving outside the courtroom. Tell us what you're doing this Thursday.
Every year I sleep homeless. I think this is probably my 10th or 11th, maybe even 13 years. 13 years of sleeping homeless for Covenant House. Covenant House is an organization that helps homeless teenagers. And I actually started working with Covenant House when I was in high school. I went to Monsignor Farrell High School on Staten Island, and we used to have a dance-a-thon where we would stay up all night and try to raise money for Covenant House. And it was years later that a friend of mine, Charlie Colari, very good friend of mine, called me up one day and he said he sleeps homeless for Covenant House. And it reminded me of my relationship to them when I was back in high school. So I said, I'd love to do that. So my first year, Charlie and I slept out. We went up to the bus depot by the Jacob Javits Center, actually. And we found a spot near a grate, believe it or not, and we went to bed. One of the things that stood out to me the most that night were that the homeless kids that were at Covenant House came out to find us, the people that were sleeping homeless. And one of them grabbed me and said that I was using the cardboard box that I had incorrectly. I had laid the cardboard box on top of me, and I put a sleeping bag underneath me. The person pointed out to me that I have to put the cardboard box underneath me because the cardboard box would absorb the cold, and then the sleeping bag would keep me warm. So it was really unbelievable that these children came out to make sure we knew how to sleep homeless the best. And I've been doing this every single year. I take a night out and I sleep homeless to raise money, of course, and awareness for Covenant House. I would say the most brutal, people say, oh, and what about when it snows? Well, I've done snow, I've done rain, I've done cold, I've done hot. There was one year that it was 60 degrees and I actually felt bad that I was sleeping homeless and it was 60 degrees out. But the worst is the rain. There ain't no escaping the rain. And if it's just above freezing and it's cold and you're getting rained on and you're sleeping, it's something to behold. And it's an experience that everybody should go through one time, and you will recognize how much we need to do for our homeless. A lot of homeless teenagers did not choose to be homeless. The stories I hear every year are heartbreaking. So I was taken by a young woman, one of my first years sleeping homeless, a young woman who had come to Covenant House. She, at about 13 years old, she was from the Bronx, I believe, had come out. She had told her parents that she was a lesbian, and her mother and father threw her out of the house. They weren't going to tolerate her being a lesbian, and they threw her out of the house. So for weeks, she would couch surf, which is a term that I learned through Covenant House, where she would, stay at friends' houses and just sleep on their couch. And they call that couch surfing. And she'd go from house to house until it just got to a point where, her friend's parents, had enough of her, and she became homeless. And she explained that during the fall and into winter, that a lot of the buildings in New York, their roofs are made of tar, and that the tar during the day gets hot. And at night, they try to get to the rooftops of these buildings and fall asleep up there because it keeps them warm. So this one person did that, this girl that was thrown out and couch surfed, and the police were coming up. And she ran into the elevator maintenance room. And unbeknownst to her, there was a vagrant in there who beat her half to death. Well, it just happened that elevator was getting serviced the next morning. And the elevator repairman who came in there to service the elevator saw her, took her to the hospital. Called an ambulance. And she was beaten so badly, she ended up being in the hospital for almost 5 months. And at the end of her hospital stay, the nurses tried to get her to Covenant House. And Covenant House only has a certain amount of beds. There's only a certain amount of people that they can take in. That's why I sleep homeless, by the way, to raise money and awareness and maybe get more beds. But this young woman made such an impression. When they went to Covenant House, there were no beds. So the nurses in the hospital took turns taking this young woman home until she had a bed at Covenant House. She went to Covenant House. She learned life skills. She got an education. And when I met her, she was graduating. I think it was from Brown. I'm not sure if it was Brown or Dartmouth. She had gotten a scholarship, graduated from Brown or Dartmouth, and was actually sleeping homeless with us to raise awareness for homeless teenagers at that time. And it's stories like that that make me keep doing it. And it's something that I think about all year. When we're walking through the city, you see homeless everywhere.
Absolutely. It's awful.
It's unfortunate. And most of the people we see do suffer from mental disease, mental illness, drug addiction, alcohol addiction. And a lot of those people can overcome that illness, that disease. And we should take the time to try to help these people. I know that in our city, we're trying to help a lot of people, but it really is unfortunate. So yes, Alex, that's why I do once a year. I sleep homeless for Covenant House. They're in my mind all year. There's a Covenant House down by me in Asbury Park. A bunch of us once a week try to provide a really different dinner experience for them. We send in pizzas or sandwiches or something from local places, so they have not the normal institutional food that you would get at a place like that.
Gotta say, a lot of people seem to complain about the homeless situation. Why aren't we helping them? But you are helping them. And I think that's a great message that, hey, you too can help as well, right?
Everybody can help. Every little bit helps. The best way to help, if you're out eating dinner in Manhattan and you got leftovers, give them to a homeless guy. 90% of the leftovers go in your refrigerator and then end up in the garbage about 3 days later. You have leftovers, stop and give it to a homeless person. Give it to them.
Well, I love that you're able to balance law and life. And I know that You have a busy law life, so to take time out must mean a lot for you to do this with Covenant House. And tell us your relationship with Brian Cashman, because he also participates in this.
The great thing about Brian Cashman, and I every year pre-COVID, but I haven't seen Brian after COVID. He still does it. I know he still does it. We'll probably see him this year. We're doing it at. We're actually sleeping homeless in Giant Stadium because I believe the Jets and Giants want to be involved in the endeavor this year, which is great because those guys can raise a lot of money. But the greatest thing about Brian Cashman is he raises money by sleeping homeless, and he sleeps homeless with us. He's not no celebrity who's gets to walk outside, take a photo op, and then go back inside. Brian Cashman sleeps homeless. He goes out there in the street like the rest of us, and he sleeps. And as far as I know from him, he doesn't take any contributions from his players. He doesn't, go to them and say, "Hey guys, I'm sleeping homeless. Can you give me some money?" He goes out and does it like the rest of us. I send out my links. I post them on Facebook, and he basically does the same thing. He's not one of these guys that relies on his ball players. He goes out and he tries to get the public to support him sleeping homeless. Good guy. Every year I try my best because it's always the time of year when the trades are happening. So, we got Ohtani and Soto, and I'm very interested in hearing what he has to say about that. Not that he ever gives it up, but I try my damnedest to get some inside information out of Mr. Cashman.
Well, I know him personally as well, and I know the Yankees are just a charitable team as well as a successful team. They're very charitable, and the Steinbrenners have always contributed to these different causes as well. So that's it's always awesome to see that part of the Yankees shine in addition to their baseball, right?
Yes, right. Absolutely.
I want to close this episode with free speech again, because a lot of lawyers are under fire. Even these law students are under fire for voicing pro-Palestine views. And what's your thought on that? Should law students be more careful as they apply to these jobs?
Look, I'm not pro-Palestine, obviously, but you in the United States, you have the freedom to believe in whatever you believe in as long as you're not hurting another person. The First Amendment gives you the right to freedom of speech, but it doesn't give you the right to go in a movie theater that's not on fire and yell fire and cause a commotion and a riot. So these people that are pro-Palestine, that are protesting peacefully, it is their right to do it. I don't agree with it, but I would defend their right to protest, just like anybody who's pro-Israel has the right to protest. Anybody who's pro-NFL or non-NFL. Everybody in the United States has that. That's what makes our country wonderful, that we have the right to protest. We have the freedom of speech. But it becomes problematic when it becomes violent. There's no reason for it to become violent. We don't live in a third world country that is, that these rules don't apply. We're a civilized nation, and we should get along with civilized people. And we should all be civilized to each other, especially the Christmas holiday.
Mario Gallucci, you are a criminal defense attorney with over 33 years of experience, recognized as one of the top lawyers in New York and New Jersey. And once again, they can reach you by calling 888-369-0674. No obligation, right? Free
no obligation. Free consultation.
At 888-369-0674. And email you at mario@thegallucci.com.
Thanks, Alex. As always, it was a pleasure sitting down with you and doing this again.
This has been Mario Gallucci's Mr. Acquittal, defending the rights of the people on the Alex Garrett Podcast Network.